Something just changed about minimalism, and most people living by its rules have absolutely no idea it happened yet. I'm standing in my living room on day 23 of this experiment, holding a cardboard box, and I'm crying. Not because I miss my stuff, because I just realized I'd been lying to myself for years about what enough actually means. There are 47 items in this box: a lamp I bought in college, a throw blanket my sister gave me, a juicer I used exactly once in 2021. And here's the thing nobody warned me about: getting rid of your stuff doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like grief. Real, uncomfortable, identity-shaking grief. I got rid of half my stuff in 30 days, and what happened next genuinely surprised me. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly what minimalism gets brutally wrong, and the one shift that actually changed everything. Let me back up to February 14th. Yes, Valentine's Day, which felt appropriate for what turned out to be a breakup story. Not with a person, with my own home. I live in a 780-square-foot apartment in Denver. 2 bedrooms, one of which had become what I generously called a creative space, and what was actually a storage room with a yoga mat shoved in the corner. I had furniture stacked on furniture, bins I hadn't opened since 2019, a kitchen drawer so full it physically would not close. Sound familiar? I'd been following minimalism content online for about 2 years. The aesthetic, the capsule wardrobes, the serene white rooms. And I kept thinking, why doesn't my space look like that? Why doesn't my life feel like that? So on February 14th, I made a decision. 30 days. I would document everything. No filters, no aesthetic edits. Just the raw, unscripted truth of what happens when you actually try to live this thing. Week 1, I used the most popular minimalism method online. You've probably heard of it. You go room by room. You ask, does this serve a purpose or bring genuine joy? Simple enough, right? Day 1, I filled 3 garbage bags before noon. It felt incredible, honestly euphoric. I was texting friends. I get it now. I finally get it. I donated 34 items on day 2 alone. By day 4, I had cleared out the creative room completely. Bare walls, bare floor. I stood in the doorway and felt this rush of, and possibility. And that's when the minimalism content told me, this is it. This is what you were supposed to feel. But here's where the story breaks. By day 6, I walked into that empty room and felt nothing. Actually, worse than nothing. I felt vaguely anxious, like I'd made a mistake I couldn't name yet. I didn't talk about that part on Instagram. Nobody does. Week 2 is where it got genuinely hard. I started second-guessing everything. I'd donated a set of mixing bowls I'd had for 6 years. Nothing wrong with them, but the minimalism checklist said, duplicates go. So they went. 3 days later, I needed to make my grandmother's banana bread recipe, the one I make every March for her birthday. And I'm standing in my kitchen staring at a single small bowl, and I just felt this wave of low-grade sadness I could not explain. That's not something the aesthetic Instagram posts prepare you for. Then there was the financial panic. Week 2, day 11 specifically, when I realized that decluttering had quietly become a new form of consumption. I'd gotten rid of items I'd need to replace. I was already browsing minimalist-approved products that cost 3 times as much as what I'd thrown out. The irony was suffocating. I was spending money to own less stuff, and the minimalism community's answer? Buy better. Buy intentionally. But nobody tells you what that costs, emotionally, financially, or practically, when you're in the middle of it. Day 19. I'm sitting on my couch, one of the 7 pieces of furniture I'd kept, and I'm reading a book that had nothing to do with minimalism. It's a design book, actually, written in 1954 by a Danish architect named Jorn Utzon. And there's this line that stopped me cold. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, that a home is not a background. It is a living participant in your daily experience. That sentence broke something open in my brain. I had been treating minimalism like subtraction. Remove enough and what's left is automatically meaningful. But that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. The empty room didn't feel peaceful because it was empty. It felt empty because it was empty. The things I'd kept hadn't been chosen with intention. They'd survived a purge. There's a difference. A massive, life-changing difference. And that realization completely reframed the next 11 days. Here's what I learned that nobody in the minimalism space will say out loud. Minimalism sold as an aesthetic is a trap. The real version, the one that actually changes your life, is not about how much you own. It's about whether what you own is working for you or working against you. Let me make that concrete. I kept 214 items in my apartment. I counted. That's not some monk-level capsule existence. But every single one of those 214 items has a job, a real specific daily job. The items that survived weren't the most expensive ones or the most beautiful ones. They were the ones that genuinely participated in my life, to use Utzon's phrase. My cast iron skillet, my 2 sets of quality bedding I actually rotate, my 3 glass canisters on the kitchen counter that hold coffee, oats, and rice, visible, accessible, used daily. My 1 great lamp that makes my entire living room feel intentional at 7 p.m. And here's the wild part. My home now looks more peaceful than it ever did during my maximum stuff era. Not because I own less, because what I own earns its space.
So what does this mean for you? Not just in your home, but in how you actually live. The minimalism industry has done something clever and slightly dangerous. It's made less into a moral position. If you own more, you're somehow less enlightened, less intentional, less free. That's nonsense. And I say that as someone who genuinely transformed their home and life through this process. The real lesson is this. Clutter isn't always about quantity. It's about misalignment. It's about owning things that don't reflect who you actually are right now, not who you were 5 years ago, not who you think you should be, but who you are today, in your real daily life. That's the question worth asking. Not, does this spark joy? A phrase so overused it's lost all meaning. But, does this item actively participate in the life I'm actually living? That question is harder. It takes longer. But the answer it gives you is honest. And honest is what changes things.
All right, let's get practical. Here's the exact 3-step process I'd use if I started over today, and what actually stuck from my 30 days. Step 1. Do a participation audit before you purge anything. For every item you're considering removing, ask, when did this last participate in my day? If it's been more than 90 days and it's not seasonal, it's a candidate for the exit. Step 2. Upgrade before you eliminate. The reason I felt anxious in week 2 was I removed things without replacing the function. Before you donate your 4th mixing bowl, ask, do I need to replace this with one really good version? That's where quality basics actually matter. I'll link below to a few things that genuinely survived my cut and earned permanent space. Things like the OXO airtight canisters I now use daily, a set of threshold storage bins from Target that are actually sturdy, and the Amazon Basics microfiber sheet set that replaced 3 mediocre sets I'd been sleeping on for years. These aren't sponsored recommendations. They're the items still in my apartment after day 30. Step 3. Design for your actual life, not your aspirational one. Your real morning routine, not the Pinterest version. Your real cooking habits. Your real work-from-home setup. When your space reflects your actual life, it stops fighting you. So here's where we close the loop I opened at the very beginning. I told you something about minimalism had changed, and most people didn't know it yet. Here's what changed. The people who are actually thriving with intentional living have quietly moved past the own as little as possible dogma into something more honest and more personal. They're not chasing an aesthetic. They're building environments that actively support the life they're living right now. That crying moment on day 23? I wasn't mourning my stuff. I was mourning the version of myself I'd been unconsciously holding onto through objects. The college lamp, the sister's blanket, the one-use juicer. Letting them go wasn't loss. It was an honest conversation with myself about who I actually am today. And that, not the empty shelves, not the neutral color palette, not the 33-item wardrobe, is what minimalism, done honestly, actually gives you. If this resonated with you, subscribe. I document this kind of real, unfiltered home and life content every week. Drop a comment with the one item in your home you know needs to go, but you keep avoiding. I read every single one. Disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing constitutes professional advice of any kind.